November 11th is the premiere of Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. And we thought, why not check out his first solo film, Black Panther, which debuted in 2018. If it still holds up or kind of goes flat. Also, Rotten Tomatoes, give or take, the audience score was 79%, and the critics rated it as 96%. Do we agree with any of them? You're about to find out.
I thought for a second you were about to say, like, I was like, so we decided to watch Black Panther, and does this kitty keep his claws? Wow. Something corny.
That sounds like a different type of movie. Okay, spoilers. I just finished rewatching Black Panther. Did you?
A couple days ago, but yes.
Okay. I'm going to say off the bat, this, in comparison to what we originally saw him in Captain America Civil War, I have to say I'm a little disappointed in the continuation of his story. I was a little disappointed when I first saw it. Now, this film is beautifully shot. The colors, the costumes, the characters,
the soundtrack,
great, very good as well. And again, Chadwick Boseman, he is T'Challa. He is Black Panther. There's you have Robert Downey. It will always be Iron Man. You have Michael Keaton will always be Batman. Christopher Reeves always Superman. To me, anyway, Chadwick Boseman will always be that Black Panther. And you have, like I said, great characters here. I just felt that there's missed opportunities, I think. There were some things that they didn't continue with what we saw in Captain America Civil War. What about you? Like, where do you think they did a great job? Did they miss the point or miss the mark?
I'm willing to guess I know what you're talking about. What's funny is the Captain America Civil War technically was a slight diversion from what is the MCU formula, in some ways. And I say that because Civil War, they had the catches, the fan service, we bring in other characters and so forth like that, right? But one of the biggest things they didn't do in Civil War was kill the main villain. He lived. MCU kills their villains almost every project they do. Like, you introduce a villain, be it cool or not, they kill him. Except for Loki and Zemo and maybe one or two other people that snuck through the 20-some movies they have.
Right.
But Civil War, every time we get a villain that actually lives, it's kind of refreshing. Black Panther comes by, we're back to status quo. And we had, I would dare say, two fantastic villains. One that had like a motto, he's like, I am right. I am going to improve the world based on my terms and how I see fit. That was Killmonger. Mm-hmm. And then you had Ulysses Claw.
Yeah, he was awesome.
Yeah, I loved him. And granted, he was in Ultron, but I feel like he got more crazy after Ultron. And I just love that.
Remember, in Age of Ultron, he got his arm cut off.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that kind of does something to someone's psyche.
Yeah. Oh, no, I don't doubt it. But like, he had some great lines, like where he's like,
I made it rain.
I made it rain. He's just laughing it off. He's like, oh, I was like, you like that? Like, I was like, I got more. It's like, you want my SoundCloud? He's like, get him a mixtape. And he's like,
or when they're being chased in that car chase, and he's like, put on the radio, man. It's like,
this is not a funeral. Right. And then he's sitting in the interrogation room. He's like, what is love? Baby, don't hurt me. Bro, I would love to watch a movie where he comes and says it. Like, if they brought back Fantastic Four, he would have been great. Not only a Black Panther.
Why would he be great in what?
Well, because he was not only a Black Panther villain, but he was also a Fantastic Four villain, if I remember correctly. At least back in when I was Yeah, when I was a
What?
kid, when I was young, I
When was he?
remember
When was he a Fantastic Four?
he's been his so when my first introduction to Claw was the Fantastic Four animated
Oh, I'm
cartoon.
sorry. I'm thinking of Andy Serkis. Sorry, the actor.
Oh, you're thinking the actor. I'm thinking
I'm
the
sorry. Yeah,
character
yeah. You're talking about the character. I was thinking about the actor. That brought Claw
to life.
to life. Yeah. Yes, you have two villains. You have Killmonger and you have Ulysses Claw. And yes, out of the two, I loved Ulysses Claw's character.
Yeah.
Killmonger, his portrayal, I don't know. I had trouble taking seriously this portrayal of Killmonger. I mean, Michael B. Jordan, he's a great actor, but he's a tooty good shoes. He didn't seem like a man that saw war, even though his character did. But the way he carried it, when someone who is like have served war and has killed so many people because that's those markings, that's what he said.
Mhm.
All those markings on his body is a death. There's a different persona in my, well, this is my opinion. And of course, all these things are my opinion as well as yours. I didn't feel there was evil there. 'Cause after all those killings, the psyche, the perception, what have you, your mind is warped. He had a different thing. He had like a more like a world domination. His world domination was more of a betrayal of his homeland
Mhm.
because he was exposed them and taking away, destroying all the herbs that gave the power to the this country and
Yeah, he wasn't necessarily really. It was a
well,
combination of things. He wanted to, quote unquote, reshape the world, but at the
mhm,
same time, he wanted to crush the dynasty that was Wakanda
right,
and
right.
the rulers of the kingdom.
Right. I just
Um,
want to real quick apologize. Not like he destroyed the herb, but he will use the vibranium to sell and all that stuff and
True.
what have you. But he destroyed the herbs that no one else can have power, which I
Mhm.
thought was kind of short minded because what if he has the offspring?
So here's the thing. My mind went back to the What If episode of
Hmm.
where it was with Killmonger. And even though, like, in that episode, he was accepted amongst the people as like one of the heirs and whatnot, he still plotted to essentially start a war and
Right.
eventually bring chaos to the Wakandan people,
Right.
not just for
Well,
the world.
that shows in that aspect where like because in the what if you have different characters that a certain change of events change their outlook or
Yeah,
perspective where he was still being like
focused.
that, right, and he'll still do what he needed to do because his father was still killed by his uncle by then,
Absolutely. It's just the only event was he was there when Tony got hit and he got
right,
Tony out. But that goes to show like his mentality as a character change the events. He's still that guy, and he
right.
still will do those things.
Well,
Now
I'm just saying
he's not necessarily evil though. Just that he's driven to accomplish his goal, like Loki.
but he's evil. If you want to destroy a country, not rule it but destroy, that's evil. You know what I'm saying? It's like Loki wanted to control. He wanted to lead.
But he was willing to destroy the U.S. in order to rule the world. He was willing to destroy New York.
Who?
Loki, the
Well,
first Avengers.
yeah, but that was sacrificing some pawns. You know what I'm
E-
saying? It's like that he could still rule the planet without New York.
Exactly,
You know?
and you could still rule the planet without Wakanda.
Yeah, but he wanted to destroy everything he had. He wanted to destroy things that he couldn't rule at all. He did, like you said, he wanted to destroy the legacy, the dynasty, all that stuff. But I'm just saying, I had trouble. I don't know. It was just for me that it seemed off. Where Michael B. Jordan portrayal of him, it didn't seem deeply rooted enough. Do you understand? Like, I mean,
You were anticipating more military portrayal.
well, no, not that I was military. More of a scarred human by war, by his history, the death of his father. I don't remember if he said anything about his mother.
They never talked about his mom.
Granted, we saw that he was a cold-blooded killer, yes. Like he killed his love interest, he killed his partners, and he ended up killing Ulysses Claw in order, it was all strategic to get in Wakanda, to be
Yeah.
accepted by that, killing the one man that was like a thorn in Wakanda.
Which,
So,
I'm sorry to sidetrack, but I was going to
no,
say that's a plot hole right there because like when they brought him in front of the country, he's like, "I brought you the man that you couldn't bring in." Da 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 da. No one called him out on like you were the one that made him escape in the first place. You didn't bring him in. You helped
right.
him escape, and now you're bringing him back to us.
Well,
No one called that out. That was they.
well, he is
T'Challa had that opportunity. He knew who he was.
right, but the thing is, like, he captured him to kill him. Like, like
Mhm.
Law
Yeah,
didn't get a chance to create more havoc. He killed him as soon as he got him. Yes, there are some plot holes here. Like I said, beautiful costumes, beautiful landscape. I love the technology aspect of it. It was very Tony Stark, even though it's not. But you had
yeah,
the same thing, like the nanobots. That
yeah.
it was like before Iron Man
Tony.
had that technology. Yeah, before they had that technology of the armor just showing up. It was very reminiscent. I couldn't help it but think of two things, like James Bond with his sister being Q, or Batman, where she's Alfred. You also had the Lion King influence. That was wholeheartedly Lion King and Jungle Book. I'm sorry, but I couldn't help but think of that, especially when it's dream sequences, the Panther is on the tree and stuff like that. And then the father speaking to him almost like James Earl Jones. I also have problems with a lot of the action. Like what's great about it, like with Black Panther's portrayal in Civil War, the costume was on freaking point. The fighting style was on freaking point. Here, they made it into a spandex. And the helmet coming off and on, off and on, off and on was freaking irritating, in my opinion, with him and Killmonger. They're fighting, they're like in battle, and then they get kicked off. While they're kicked off, the helmet comes, disappears, and then they show their face, and then they go back in. Like in Civil War, they're fighting, and he has it, and he talks, you hear it through his, through the mask and all that stuff. Great. You just feel like that is what Black Panther would do. He would not take off and put on, take off, put on, take off, put on.
That's fair.
Granted, if they're doing it to, for the actor's performance to see the face, okay. But Spider-Man never takes off his mask when he's fighting and not fighting, fighting, not fighting. Like his mask is on, but the performance still comes out.
Yeah, and Iron Man technically doesn't do it all the time. Really, it's
Right.
like you see like zoomed in underneath the mask, but still.
Right. And I guess they didn't want to do that to replay or revisit the Iron Man technology or focus.
I mean, technically, there was plenty of scenes where he's not even in costume at all. Where I would have been okay if he wasn't underneath if they didn't show him underneath the mask or take off the mask that often.
But I'm just saying, like he off and on, like yeah,
Yeah,
but I'm just talking about when he's on when he's
I'm
on,
agreeing with you in that
yeah,
sense. Like if they just left it on and maybe one scene, like the mask gets ripped off in that final fight scene or something like that, then I would have been like, oh yeah, that is still Chad.
yeah, it would have been like cool if like they're fighting and then the mask had to come off instead of being part of the thing. Because it's like, how do you know? Like I can't remember. She's like tells him to think about it and it comes off. Think about it, it goes back on. It was just too much. Like on off. So I just got tired of that. And a lot of the fighting was so much CGI. Yes, I know Iron Man is CGI. Yes, I know other characters, and especially the Incredible Hulk, is CGI. But they made the fighting realistic with that. Here, you could easily tell that it was completely CGI, how the characters move, how cheap they moved, instead of doing their best of having them move in costume.
So let me guess. Your worst fight scene was the final
The
fight scene,
finale, the
the
final
final,
fight scene,
especially when they were in the tunnel,
cave.
the cave.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't
I
disagree
mean,
with that.
I
I'm
mean, all the whole the fight where he comes down and crashes that plane to start it off.
yeah,
He says, "I'm still here. I'm not dead. I never yielded." And and then they go on. Oh, to go with that too. I know in our one of our previous previews or reviews, excuse me, one of our previous reviews, that I said I don't remember Marvel having so many curses. And I think it was with our She-Hulk or Werewolf by Night or Moon Knight, what have you. But
Yeah, we were totally wrong.
yeah, totally wrong. Because
A lot of
after
Marvel
seeing,
products have
yes, Captain America, Civil War, and here there's plenty of
cusses.
vulgarity, curses. Like, and I know they say shit and bullshit in Captain America, Civil War. Here, his sister gives him the finger,
Yep,
and there's some shit bombs here and there. So my apologies for not getting that right before. But that's what's great about seeing these movies again after so many years. You get reminded that these movies did break barriers or in certain aspects here and there. Also, there are some good things. I know
yeah,
I'm going hard right now. The story, like I would have loved to see more of him struggling to be the new leader.
I agree.
Heavy wears the crown,
Hmm.
right? We didn't really get to see that. We just see again. This takes place pretty much after Captain America: Civil War, where they're talking about Zemo,
Zemo. Hmm.
Zemo. Talking about
Not
him, his
not the fish.
not the fish, but the arrest and all this stuff, and he was responsible for the destruction at the UN and the death of T'Challa's father.
Yep. Well, let's put it this way: like the Killmonger taking over thing. Besides the right of challenge, it would have made more sense, like you were saying, if there was more of a political struggle going on. Like if they were arguing about like how he handled the Zemo situation. Why is there a white wolf hanging out a kingdom that is supposed to be hidden?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
how is he handling the introduction of Black Panther to the world when that character was never introduced to the world in the first place? Basically, like all these other things that could have been introduced, and arguably probably in 15 minutes,
And give a better, like, which would give a better story.
as to why they sided with Killmonger.
I mean, they kind of did in a way, but it was like quick.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You
It
give a
was, it was
little
like,
bit more background to that.
and again, a struggle like, this is your cousin that you haven't seen ever. And they're going like fist to blows instead of T'Challa trying to fix things to restore a bond that was lost from their parents.
Yeah.
It would have been nice to see he's trying to fix what his father did, but he doesn't, or try to understand and things like that. That would have been a nice. I mean, this is very Shakespearean. Like
I
a
mean, the
couple
movie's
things,
like 2 hours long. I mean, if they
right?
did like 20 or 30 more minutes, it would have been longer, but it would
Mhm.
have made more sense to give you that, what you're talking about, that little drive of let's try to fix and patch this relationship that was essentially never existed because of
Well,
the sins of
like
the fathers.
right, but like say like he's struggling how to be king. He's trying to understand. Then Killmonger comes in, and then he's like, "What the hell?" So there's another hurdle he has to. Yeah, and it is happening. Those hurdles and those obstacles is happening, but it's like fast. Like
Mm.
is just going into like we can't really get a nice hook or support because we're pretty much working with what we got from Captain America: Civil War. From that, we're getting that lead, that boom, and then going right to here, where there's really no character building, which they could have done,
So you're saying you would have liked a Wakanda Game of Thrones?
possibly. And it was kind of that. And this also was a civil war among his country.
It technically was a better civil war,
Right.
by definition.
Yes, by several tribes going at each other,
Hmm.
trying one side, one is with Killmonger, the other is with T'Challa. And then, yes, and then they go to blow. So a lot better than what we saw with the four and five, four-man team and the five-man team
True.
going at it in the airport.
I would. Well, okay. Let's talk about the good.
Oh, I'm not done with the bad.
Damn, bro, how much you right? Go ahead, hit me with the bad.
The martial arts. So what we had him move, and I understand what they did. They changed it up to make it look more African.
Are you talking about the
I
water fight scene or?
Any of them, and like all the fights, pretty much is more African. Where we saw him in Civil War, It was more kung fu. It was more freestyle. It was more like capoeira
Fluid.
mix, and yeah, fluid and stuff like that. Here it was just like, again, with the African weapons and all that, which is great, but such a drastic change what we saw previously with him. Also, technique wasn't so good. The time where M'Baku challenges him and he gets him into a lock. That lock was weak as hell. He has him some kind of like triangle armbar choke, but his neck is totally okay, not in danger. And M'Baku's going like, "Oh, I'm about to pass out. Let me tap." His arm that's extended is not in danger of being broken. He's not in danger of being knocked out from the choke. He's totally open. And so when I saw that, I was like, okay.
And Baku
And
took the dive.
possibly. And then when he's fighting Killmonger for the title of king, I mean, from everything we saw, are you mean to tell me he fought Captain America? Yes, I understand he was enhanced from the herb, but your body still knows how to move. You may not be as strong, as fast, or as agile, but you can move. You know how to fight. You're telling me since he fought Captain America,
Hawkeye,
Winter Soldier, Hawkeye,
Black Widow.
well, Black Widow, not really, because
Oh
she
no,
just shot him. She just shot him with stuff.
it's true.
But you mean to tell me that a person who's not enhanced can go toe to toe with you that has all these skills? Yes, I know Killmonger was skilled as well. He was trained in the military, but come on, it's a different type. And
Well,
also, he's familiar with the settings and that waterfall. That could have been to his advantage, but no. I mean, granted, I understand for the story, but
funny thing. So in the comics, I'll be that guy. I'm actually in the comic books.
well, that's fine.
In the comics, like the right of trial for Black Panther, if I remember correctly, it was like they had to do that battle, right? But it was like the 1 against 3. So if you're gonna take the title of Black Panther, you have to face 3 of like the strongest warriors, beat them in unarmed combat, and then like you can earn that title. The title was also taken from the Black Panther, T'Challa, by Killmonger in the comic, but the difference from the comic and here is he never relinquished the power of the Black Panther. So he had the power of the Black Panther, and Killmonger still beat him without any extra power. Honestly, if you kept that part, that would have made Killmonger seem like a true threat, like right there, because you're like, oh, you just took out a guy who can go toe to toe with Captain America, and I would have been like, whoa.
No, exactly. But then they're fighting and they're enhanced and they're wearing the armor, and he was still able to. I was like, but you didn't land a blow. I don't believe you landed a blow on him initially on that waterfall. I don't remember him landing a blow.
He did. He got him in the face, and he got him like
That's right.
He got him like one other move. But the thing is, technically, he had him dead to rights, but he's like yield, and he let him get back up. And once he let him get back up, that's when he started losing. So it's and that fight right there. That was the concept of fighting restrained versus fighting unrestrained. Killmonger was fighting to kill. T'Challa was fighting to win. There's a difference.
Well, I guess for me, my thing is like I had trouble staying awake for this.
For the fight, the last fight scene, or just in general?
The movie was like, again, it's like it wasn't grabbing me as the other Marvel films. It wasn't grabbing me as Captain America: Civil War. And again, I know it did great. It was a great lift in that Black community, and rightly so. He's a beautiful character. He stands for a lot of good stuff, and so does his girlfriend and his guards. You know, I mean, I totally get and I understand, but it was just like there was a lot of slow parts. Would have been nice if they kept up the pace. Now, I mean, there's other stuff that bother me, but I guess we can move on to good stuff. And there are a lot of good stuff here. I'm not gonna lie, there are some good stuff, and there are some good action scenes. All right. Do you have any? What did you like out of this?
Well, my favorite action scene
Not just,
is
well, not just action, not just action. Do you have a character or a moment besides the action?
well, I said I like the villains. I did enjoy
Hmm.
Killmonger. My and I love Ulysses Claw,
Hmm.
but I like the chaos aspect, and he is a chaos character to me. So I did enjoy that. The movie artistically is fantastic in a lot of different ways.
Yes.
The backgrounds, the cinematography of like the environments, great. The community that they developed, they because you gotta be on. Let's be honest, they developed the Wakandan community, the tribes, the Water Tribe, the Mountain tribes, the all the different color systems. Yes, that was in the comics, but not really flushed out, in all honesty. You got like maybe two that was mostly known, and that was it for the
Hmm.
most part. Here you
Hmm.
have multiple sections, and like you see how this is, and it's like a whole new world. I called it out earlier. The music, the soundtrack for the music, I enjoyed it a lot. I would dare say up until the last act, I was pretty okay with the story. The last act is where it started losing me. But the first act, when you see they introduce Killmonger, the chase scenes, the part where
Hmm.
basically up until Ulysses Claw died, I was like, this is hitting every point for me. And then things started
Hmm.
changing after that point.
It
As a
really,
whole, I
it
enjoy the movie. It's just that's where I can notice the things started going a different path.
like when Killmonger gets stabbed, his whole thing changed. I was like, "Are you kidding me?"
So let me
Like,
fall into the river like rather than be a
no,
slave
no,
or something like that.
that's actually him, right? But he was like, "My father always wanted me to come here to show me the land and see the beauty of it." Blah
Hmm.
blah blah. I was like, "You had that. You had that with you, but now you got stabbed in the heart, and now you have a change of heart. Excuse the pun." And then the child takes him to the cliff to look at the sunset. Another Lion King reference. And he's like, "Oh, how beautiful!" It's like, dude, you had that, but your anger, something like that. But now, since you're dying, you're gonna like, "Oh, I wish I could be here." I was like, "Screw you! You almost destroyed a nation and the world."
I mean, that's
But
going full circle with the concept of
I
that, but
guess,
yeah.
but him saying that, let me bury me in the sea like my ancestors did.
Hmm.
And then for a moment, I was like, "Wait a minute, your ancestors were in the island. They were never captured from Wakanda." But then I was like, "Well, maybe his mother's side."
Yeah,
because
but again,
because
that's
no
like
one no one from Wakanda got.
that's a man. Killmonger's a man confused. He doesn't. He knows where he's from, but he doesn't know where he's from. That's the way I consider it.
I mean, he has so much anger and hate. He didn't allow to see the beauty of his culture, of his nation, until it was too late. It's like that line before he pulls out the knife. I mean, that to me was Killmonger. That's the badass that I wanted to see prior, not just a bully fighting girls and shooting women and stuff like that. Because that's pretty much what he did. He was fighting women. He wasn't really fighting guys
Well,
until unless it was
let's be
T'Challa.
honest. The Dora Milaje were probably the toughest fighters there.
But it doesn't matter. They're still women. Okay. I mean, I'm just saying, like he was bullying them. He was going after them. You're right, and there were multiple of them. But I'm
They're
just
like
saying
trained
that
assassins. They're like, I mean,
I
going based
understand that
on it, they're the
they're not
trained
trained
guard.
assassins; they're actually trained guards. But what I'm telling you, it doesn't matter. He was going after them. I didn't see him fight any of the guys. He shot his girlfriend.
Oh yeah.
But for me, the good parts, Chadwick Boseman, no way. He's awesome, untouchable. But I love Everett Ross, Ulysses Claw. Sure, he was cool too, but you got to give it to M'Baku.
M'Baku was great. He was a joy.
M'Baku was awesome. Yes,
A
especially.
completely different departure than what he was in the comics, which I am
Mhm.
happy for. 'Cause
Like I said, the acting in this, regardless how I saw the movie as a whole, the acting in this was phenomenal. You have
yeah,
people, Americans doing accents. You have British people playing American. So you have like American actors playing African. some English, a British playing an African. You have a British guy playing an American, which was Ross, who is actually, I believe in the comics, he's related to Thunderbolt Ross.
I'm not. I can't confirm or deny that.
Yeah, I think he's like he is related, I believe. But anyway, like that was for me a joy. That those performances, the acting, and you have the sister Shuri. I loved her. She was like almost comic relief, if you will.
She
And then you
was.
also have
Poirier.
where's her name? Yes, Okoye, badass. We know she was a badass from Walking Dead, but in here, oh, and going with that, she had one of the best moves ever. The casino scene
Oh yeah.
when she takes off the wig, throws it at one of the guy's faces to distract him, and then spins the spear around her neck and to use it to stab and strike.
The casino scene was great.
Right until he changed, and then it became a CGI fest, and which I was like, ugh.
They also
But
turned
that
into
inside,
the chase scene, even though it was a CGI chase scene. It was a fun chase scene. Like
yes,
when
because
Okoye's
he
like
had claw.
guns, so uncivilized.
True, but her action, her movement, her handling of the spear was so fluid and smooth. It's just like, yes, this is what I like to see. I like to see that these people are seasoned.
You like to see
Granted, she just
technique.
made it. I love to see technique. Yes, it has to make sense to me. Like the one in the waterfall did not make any sense with that choke. But what she did, and it was practical. Again, she took off the wig. She used what was useful, very Jeet Kune Do, in the sense of she used it to distract, and she was also doing it to
She hated the
more
wig.
like she hated the wig. She was, like a personal stance as well. So it was like multiple things happening or multiple purposes, excuse me, of throwing that wig.
Yeah.
Okay. Now the other action scene I liked was the jet scene at the end when
Oh,
Ross is taking down the ships. I mean, it was very intense. It was very I don't want to say Top Gunish, but it was damn close. And how he's racing against time, not just because of the jets flying away or being out of reach, but also he's being attacked
yeah.
right outside
It built
this
it
simulation.
built tense pressure.
Right.
Did you not like the fight
See?
between the entire Dora Milaje versus Killmonger?
No.
No.
The only reason I didn't read is because Killmonger was very, in my opinion, stiff. I have, and I know you have, I believe you fought multiple people at once, right? Multiple attackers in your dojo. In my dojo,
True.
we had kumite, we had to fight multiple people, 2 people, 3 people. And the thing is, when you have multiple attackers and they have weapons, you become very Jackie Chanish, meaning you're moving around. You're not trying to stay in one spot. You're not trying to hold your ground, especially if you have space. He had plenty of space and he
Correct.
was not. So for me, he was just standing there and like
Yeah.
deflecting here, boom, boom. It was very basic. I would have liked to, since these are skilled guards, skilled was with their weapon. I would have liked to have seen more in a sense of multiple attacks. They did it. They surrounded him a couple of times, but for him, I would love to see his skill where he's like fighting them and he's positioning himself that he gets like multiple behind each other, like a row.
Well, let's break it down because not everybody that
They
watches our
started that
stuff
way.
knows martial arts. Like
They started that way, but yeah,
I mean, well, just breaking it down, like for people who do watch our stuff and talking about this. So what Angel, my brother, is trying to say is
the 40
one of the
people.
rules. Yeah, for the 5 people. Rule number one when you're fighting multiple opponents is don't fight multiple opponents. Find a way.
Well, yeah, oh, yeah, that's one.
Find a
Yeah,
way to either put yourself a gap between your two or more opponents where you can just focus on one guy, or put the other opponent in between you and the other opponents. So that way
hmm
you're only fighting one person. You may be fighting like 5 to 10 people, but you're only having to focus on one at a time because you're using
right,
them as a shield as well as you're punching back.
right. And they also here. I'm sorry, you
Yeah,
can
no, you're
continue,
you're
but
you're good.
the thing is, like, they're also fighting for the most part one at a time.
the cliche fighting technique of all
Right.
movies. Like you watch
Because
any movie from the 80s on to now, actually
right.
60s on to now. That's always been the case. We've commented
But
about it
yeah,
before, and
you see it when Okoye tells her guards to attack. They do. Like you have one goes attack, then another follows. Then you see Okoye standing there just spinning her spear.
yeah,
I was like, why? Just go in. Just take the high one. One goes high, one goes low. You distract as others go around him and stuff like that. So I was like,
it would have
yeah,
made
it
more
was
sense if
just
he was manipulating. Like if someone goes in for the hit, he grabs that person or manipulates them to throw them in front of the path of the next person. So that next person waits for the other person to get out of the way or tries to seek another way to get in.
and then
That would make more
and
sense.
then right. And then it happens again when he's fighting Nakia and Shuri.
Hmm.
He's right in the middle. Like Shuri's at one end throwing the sonic bombs or sonic booms, if you will, and not Shuri, Nakia is throwing her spears, not spears, spheres, discs, if you will, at him. So he's getting
Hmm.
attacked front and back instead of like getting that situation of facing two in one direction.
Yeah,
Because every time he turned around, the other will hit him. And he turns around again, the other will hit him. And I was like, for a person who's strategic and has all those markings, he's lacking on that, or he's lacking. They lack the display of that. Again, if you're gonna have all those markings, as he claimed, they are all kill marks. Your IQ of killing of fighting is that much higher,
should be.
okay, because it's correct. And I think that's where they kind of lacked. Yeah, that was it. The fight was again that with the spear in the casino with Okoye, excuse me, jet fighters. I keep calling jet fighters, but they're not. But
Yeah,
that was
the
I
ships.
thought that was great. Yeah, I thought that was great. The civil war they had was nice, but again, it seemed like wait a minute, they broke through that their fortitude. The one with Okoye's boyfriend, that team with
Hmm.
the capes,
The tribes people.
uh, Wakabe, that got in real quick, and I was like, wait a minute, how oh, okay, that makes no sense. I just wish they were a little more focused on like story wise that they or show him really struggling of being king. Yes, they showed a little bit of it. Yes, they went in the sense of when he saw his father by the tree. I I understand, but I would just like to see a little more depth about it or in depth. I also would like to see, I guess, a little more backstory in the sense of Killmonger, in the sense of his killings, because again, it just showed like, okay, you killed my father, so I'm going to kill your country. It was very, to me, one dimensional. That's what I felt with Killmonger in this,
Yeah, well,
and I
he was
just
one
wish
dimensional.
he was right.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I think they missed out on that. That's pretty much it. I mean, like I said, the Rotten Score Tomatoes, the real critics gave it 96, while audience score, like you and me, 79. And I have to fall with the 79% of those that liked it. I would watch this again, and I would mainly because of the characters that they brought in: Ross and Baku,
hmm,
Ulysses Claw, Shuri, Okoye. So like Okoye, like I understand her, like I understand where she was coming from, where she had to serve the crown, and you could see the conflict in her. She was like, damn, I got like I don't want to protect Killmonger, but I have to protect the throne.
true.
So that was her thing, and he at that moment was the throne
You like
character
the
development.
individual characters.
Yes,
The overall story is where you had the problem, and the CGI.
no, mainly the CGI. The story was okay. It could have been a lot better.
Okay, you know what
But
I have to
this is
say to
my
that
opinion.
is, oh, oh, oh. One more
That was kind of
word,
funny.
and I will feed you to my children. I'm kidding. You're only vegetarians. I love that line.
Great characters. Angela Bassett. Yeah, she looks good in gray. Angela Bassett is one hot mama. All right. Is this worth the watch? Yes, it is, in my opinion.
I agree.
Is it as great representation of the character Black Panther in comparison to Captain America and Captain America Civil War, I'm sorry, no.
That's fair.
The likeness, the feel of Black Panther was truly captured there.
They gave him
It
more
felt like some.
humor here too than they did in Civil War.
Well, I mean, granted, back then
His father
in Civil
died.
War, his father died. Right? He's like now he's learned. Now he's faced with being king and getting revenge and all that stuff.
I say that because like in almost every other iteration, Black Panther will be snarky, but he's like straight laced to the point. Like,
I mean, in Black Panther, my God, in the books, like the one with the artwork from Mark Teixeira, there's a big story arc with him and Ross, and like Ross is being his liaison, and that thing he couldn't. Ross has so much trouble trying to keep up with him, and then he meets Mephisto. He's like, "What the hell?" This is Ross. He meets Mephisto in the comics, and he is like, "Oh my God, I want to quit." And here, like he's established in this one because we see him in Civil War as well, and they bring him into this, but he's established. Where in the comics, when we meet him, he's just coming to his own. Again, I gave my reviews, and you?
is it worth a watch? I would 100% agree. One of the questions you asked early on, does it stand the test of time? I would say yes to that too. Is it a perfect film? No, it's flawed. It's not in my top 10 in regards to that. Does it have a lot of great moments? Yes. Do I love the individual characters themselves? Yes. Did it become formulaic? Sadly, yes. And that's where I think
So,
it could have been better. Like,
okay,
case in point, that final fight scene, if they decided, okay, let's keep them CGI Panther versus Panther, but they did it outside where they were doing the battle, like where the Dora Milaje was
plus,
fighting.
yes, it was too dark
Yeah. No, that's what I'm
in
saying.
the cave.
You have like instead of the Dora Milaje fighting Killmonger, that's where you have the final fight between him and T'Challa, and it's bright light, and the two of them just going at it, and there's a one-on-one
And
fight.
everyone's watching. And
Like,
everyone's watching.
Yeah, they're like everybody's having a big fight, and then they all stop to watch this one fight because it's a battle of the kings. Whether you want it or not, that's demanding the attention that it deserves.
I mean, they did have that at the waterfall, but it was like low key. Like not that many people were there.
Yeah, but in this way, like you can't defuse.
But now you have you have the nation, all the tribes and the people are there to watch. So yes, I agree with that.
I think that would have been a nice scene, and plus you would have had less CGI, and it would have been the kind of cooler moment. Like,
maybe
like when he was going to like when he was going to kill Shuri, that's when you get into that moment. Instead of knocking into the cave, then he fights Killmonger and it becomes a one-on-one thing. But the hindsight is always 20/20.
All right, guys, that was going to be it for us on our marvelous review of Black Panther. Let us know what you thought about it. Are we like out of our minds thinking that this movie is not as great as once thought? Or do you agree with us? Until next time, will be the next time. I am Angel.
I'm Adan.
Love you, bro.
Love you.